To enjoy this and other great episodes on Patreon, check out the link in the description and subscribe via the Black Kluge tier for full access to over 100 exclusive episodes. For those of you who would like some QF swag on Teepublic, t-shirts, magnets, mugs, what have you, also click on the link in the description.
And the producer, Howard's Porky's Project, telling Howard 100 News the script for the remake is ready to go. Dan Gross saying it's full speed ahead to make Howard Stern's Porky's this fall.
That's true. I watch that and I go, who the fuck would want to be I mean, Ryan Seacrest makes a lot of money. What does he want to be on New Year's Eve doing that dumb fucking show? But he loves that shit.
He loves to work.
Sure does. I don't. I'm looking to make the most amount of money I can with the least amount of hours.
With maybe one job.
Thank you.
And, listen, thank God she's growing up nice. She's not getting any of that awkward stage like that Lispy kid.
Yeah, she doesn't look awkward. You're right.
I said to her, Millie, we can't tolerate you having some sort of awkward stage. You got to do a Brooke Shields and just be hot from the time you're a little girl to the time you're a woman.
So I wake up in the morning, I see Ralph's bedroom is empty. Artie, I realize Artie locks his door at night. I noticed you lucky. Do you have a thing? Because what I did was I tried to open the door to see if you were in there because I figured both you guys were gone, and then the door was locked.
I don't remember doing it. Maybe I did it out of habit. Yeah.
You lock yourself in at home?
He locked himself
not in the bedroom, but I might have. I was a little drunk myself. I might have locked the. I guess
Like
I locked
the front door.
Well, good thing you did because I would have been in your room.
Right, exactly.
You're smart.
Who needs you in there?
Right.
Always lock your door at Howard's house. Meanwhile, Howard,
Yes, Rob.
you have raised children in the age of the cell phone.
Yes, I have.
And you find that your kids like to text.
They do.
But do you ever text and not get an answer back?
Yeah, sure.
And how does
All
that
the
make
time.
you feel?
Well, I know they're glued to that thing 24/7.
Yeah.
Even Beth does that to me.
Uh-huh.
Like I write her and
She doesn't.
she doesn't answer. Like the one who was in the first Spider-Man where he played the villain. Your boyfriend.
Oh, my God. What a...
You saw him in a play.
Oh, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, I think he was naked in the play.
Willem Dafoe.
Didn't you see him in a play naked?
No.
Someone told me he was in a play once naked. And
well,
he's
I
got a
didn't see
huge cock.
I think she's some kind of an editor.
Yeah, Gail's Oprah's Ralph.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. All right.
But
she actually completes things.
yeah, she does.
She does.
No, my theory is, and hey, it's only a theory. I ain't saying anybody's a lesbo. I don't know. But I feel those two are in love with each other and that they do each other and that they have sex with each other, blown out lesbian sex.
So she really is his
They
Ralph.
travel together. You agree, right?
I totally agree.
And
I've always felt it.
I think if that is true, Oprah should come out of the closet.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to QF, a podcast about Howard Stern. I'm your host, as always, Fillmore, a.k.a. Jim Fix. And with me is Sam. I almost said, I'm your host, QF. Anyway, we're going to go into September 18th. We're doing a breakdown and as most likely going to cover the Ronnie's wedding as well. We know we're delayed a little bit, but we're going to push through. There is going to be a part 2 of the Paul Simon interview. I have enough clips for definitely another episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. The first one is called Audio Fuck Up First Time. This is from September 18th.
She's okay with using heterosexuality, just not gay people, and that's what I take issue with too. Is I don't do sexual stuff in front of my kids.
And how embarrassing! Like she's at a play.
Okay, it's like something rubbing up against something, but I have no idea. It's just something, but it's not. It's something internal. Some screw up of theirs.
What is that sound?
It just sounded like somebody rubbing up against the mic, like rubber hitting the mic. I'll play number 2, second time.
You guys better laugh at me, or I'll stab you and behead you. I will kill you.
Oh my. Fillmore, this sounds like, when you're like, I don't know if anybody's ever either taken the Disney bus or a school bus and you're sweaty, it's summer, there's no air conditioning, and it's your time to get up and get off the bus, and you have a heavy backpack on, and all of a sudden you get up, but when you scrape across that seat, it's just like,
I don't know. It sounds like Howard's getting out of his latex gimp costume before he fucks Ralph or something. I don't know. The next one
it does. It sounds like boots. Like when I take off my really tight boots, like that are very tight to my skin, it makes a similar sound if I've been dancing.
If someone wants to tell me that's an effect from Fred, it's the first time I've fucking heard it. So here's the third time.
I'm going to bed without dessert tonight. It's going to be a pretty stiff penalty.
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt.
It sounds like a really bad leather couch fart.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, this next one is about the Paul Simon interview. They basically have a fake caller call in to basically be an apologist for why it was such a low-key, boring fucking piece of shit interview. And John Hines in there to talk a little bit more and explain why it went the way it did.
And spent most of my weekend thinking about Paul Simon.
Oh, good.
But, hey, Mike, you're on the air in New York.
Hey now. Good morning, Howard. My question is, when you have a guest like Paul Simon, who seems to me, not that I know him, that he's sort of like a low-key guy, kind of relaxed. Do you kind of change the way you interview him, like with your energy? Because you're a high-energy guy typically, and I figure like...
High energy.
Are you... So they frame this debacle of an interview and how it sucks.
Without saying it sucked.
To have somebody call in and preemptively say that Paul Simon's a low-energy guy... So let me ask you about the process of your bullshit interview skills.
Yeah, as a cover up to explain, like, because I know you heard it, for fuck's sake. There's no way Howard expected it to go like that, fucking that drudgery.
Well, if you have somebody, how I would prepare for somebody like a Paul Simon is there's something called YouTube, Howard. Let's see how he interviews in the last, 30 plus years since he's been famous, and then go from there and then kind of like hone in on what's not working. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. We've never, now mind you, like when we had to interview Florentine, it's not like I went through every single interview he's ever done because he's done tons of them. But I did a lot of them. Remember specific ones and I remember a cross section of them, so I knew what not to ask. But I also remember specifically saying, "Let's go a little further into a question he did answer, but not really to the best he could have." Like he definitely didn't go. They didn't push him to go further down that rabbit hole, and I thought we could have more fun with this. And it's not that hard. You're right.
I mean, I have the advantage of being a fan of Jim Florentine from the beginning, but also, listening to him from different platforms, including Opie and Anthony and Howard Stern. And I also happen to listen to things like Adam Carolla or Allison, whatever her name is. Yeah, like he's done multiple different platforms where I've listened to his interviews, so I kind of know where to go and where to not go, or what I want more out of when I was listening to some of those interviews. But if I was preparing for Paul Simon, why wouldn't you go and research how other people have interviewed him to sort of have some sort of better ability to navigate that interview if you knew how he was?
And not to tread old ground, for fuck's sake, because is there any mystery left about those classic Simon and Garfunkel songs? He's probably talked about them 1,000 times.
Well, not that we're going to get any new information. That's the whole point. If you're pretending to be in this because you want to give the audience new information about the old Cecilia song, it's not happening.
No, not at all.
Each guest, you have to sort of think differently, and I was wondering how you approach Paul Simon.
I don't know, man. That's a good question. The problem with me is, I was talking to John Hine about this yesterday. I have so many questions about every aspect of his career that I haven't quite figured out. As I said to Robin this morning, what is it you eliminate from asking him? I mean,
okay, you've been doing interviewing for how many decades, and you don't know how to omit shit?
I'm right with you. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, what the fuck? On top of it, Fillmore, wouldn't it be more interesting if you have somebody that's been famous for this long with the amount of fuckery that has went on with record labels and artists to maybe get into that angle? Do you want to make some press, Howard? How about you talk about how Arista, how Sony, how Tommy, anybody has gone after artists and pillaged them? Bad boy, I don't care who they are. Maybe go down that angle if you really want to make press. You're such a fucking scaredy little bitch interviewing him about nothing.
Right. If you want to get technical, then ask him how, technology has changed how he records. Like, if it's changed it. Does he go back to, like, analog sound? Does he, gear? If you want to talk gear, go ahead. There's loads of people want to hear that as well. They might be curious. It might affect how they record things. That's stuff. That's an angle I could get behind.
There's so many different elements to this guy's life that you could just talk about. You could just talk to him about Garfunkel. You could talk
if you can talk, the thought in your head should not be, what should I eliminate? What kind of thought process is this? Like, if you really want a good interview, what can't you talk about? How about going down those angles if you really researched a person that you were interested in and thinking about what wasn't untapped, like what wasn't tapped? What can you untap? I mean, I don't understand this thought process.
What he's trying to explain away, obviously, he's trying to explain away a shitty, basically he's trying to, remember when that guy called in after the robber plant? It might have been a back office caller, and he said, he didn't seem interested in talking about the old stuff, and he was trying to, it was just, he knew the interview went badly. With this one, I think he didn't know until afterwards. Like while it was happening, he thought it was the bee's knees, but he got probably some feedback from people and they're like, oh God, that was brutal. And now he's had to set this up to explain it.
Yes, I took this as the Chevy Chase speech at his wedding, where he didn't realize it was bad at first. Whereas I think the Robert Plant one, he knew went horribly as it was happening.
He knew sooner after that than he did with this one.
Oh, he realized it by the end of that interview. When he was asking to leave, he knew.
Oh, he knew, yeah, certainly. With this one, it's like, I think during it, he got, actually, you know what? The way he continued with the fucking questions and said you could go piss twice, I still think he had to be told it was shitty after the fact.
I think, though, that there is this level of lack of preparation from him where it's, you don't need somebody to say it's his vibe or he comes off as, you should already know how he is as a person because you've studied multiple interviews for him. If this was really important to you, like if this really mattered and you could ask him anything you wanted, you have this person who you put in such high regard and respect for, do yourself the favor, listen to multiple interviews and pick and choose things that you think are going to be more interesting to delve into, but he didn't do any of that.
No, and this is proof. You're going to hear proof as soon as Jan Hein comes in, and you're going to hear proof that someone else writes his questions for him. They know how to research based on his directives. Look for father hunger. Look for some type of song that has to do with fathers. Obviously, the big songs, research them, put them in, ask about little minutia. And all he does is he gets the notes and he decides with the Sharpie or whatever, I'm not like, he puts a little star, ask this one, ask this one, ask this one. But he doesn't do any of his own prep. And you'll hear, because John knows about it. He knows about the notes, meaning and we know he's had to tap these people for help because he's a useless piece of shit and doesn't know music or like music.
Well, apparently his employees don't either. But
no.
More importantly, I would look at every interview he's ever given and come to the conclusion, anything that's going to make news or be interesting is do what you did beforehand when you would ask these questions about personal events or interactions with other celebrities or something that went down in the press. I mean, there's things, if you want to go down that like scandalous angle that you were so good at doing before that made news, do that.
This guy is he's such a big deal that I said to John Hein yesterday, here's 50 questions I could start this interview with. 50.
Just to start the interview, you got 50
like I'm not sure exactly. Here's
You
50.
need 10 hours.
You need 10 hours. You know, it's just too much.
Oh, kill me now.
So again, that's just apologist bullshit. He didn't plan on that happening, but you had to. You look up old interviews, like he and Edie Brickell were in court for like a domestic abuse call about 8 years ago, and it must have been like fucking Mike Tyson hitting a Beetlejuice, but it turned out to be squashed. Like, it was not a big deal, but it was between the two of them, so they made up. They're still married and all that, big deal. But you could hear his voice then. It was very faint. He's always been like a very weaselly sounding little troll when he's doing interviews, when he's being interviewed by anybody. So this shouldn't be a fucking surprise to you if you've done your homework.
Well, as we've done interviews, for example, we know one person who was under the influence heavily when we did an interview, and it was tough.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a different explanation. But if you're going into something with somebody you apparently have so much love for, so much admiration for, I just personally would take more time to think about the things he's already said, not repeat them, and try to go down different angles that are more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he doesn't do that, but to say that, oh my God, there's just such an immense amount of things I could ask this person, it's so overwhelming that I failed, is not an explanation.
No,
that is not an explanation. To say, look at this catalog, look at this career, look at these years. This is why I couldn't hold a fucking candle to anybody else doing an interview, because it's so expansive, Fillmore. This
is why the interview sucked, because I didn't have enough time. He had 2 fucking piss breaks, and he had to leave to go get a flu shot. But that's the problem, was I needed 10 hours. That's just insane.
Yeah, I'm not buying
John,
it.
what did I say to you yesterday? I said 50. Every minute I go, here's a way to start.
We have 6 pages of questions. We have 8 different ways to open the interview. You heard all this.
We have. See, that's the key.
Who writes your questions when we do interviews, Fillmore?
Mrs. Fillmore. She's smarter.
You need the whole day. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But the songwriting takes you to everything else. Yeah. And again, the early stuff, he went to England twice. People don't know that. He put out a solo album that had a lot of the hits that they had to repurpose.
But Hein is not reading this off any page. He knows this.
I know. And this is the craziest part is, when we go do our interviews and I have my notebook of questions, right? And I write and I send you them, I scratch them out, you give me feedback, we go back and forth, and we really do this for weeks on end. I mean, guys, when I say like we go through this rigorous process, I'm talking weeks on average. Painstakingly scratching out things, rewriting things, sending each other shit back and forth. I don't hear any of that happening.
And plus, when the thing's done and I'm in the editing process, I will make it so you guys don't have to hear some of the bullshit that goes on when there's something redundant being said or the question didn't go anywhere, because sometimes you leave that in because whatever reason. But he left in his piss breaks. Why?
But this is my point. There's also, though, this is the part that makes me even more mad. You can have the fact that you tried your best, but you can still have regrets. You can still have, I wish I did this or that or said this or that. Sometimes there's no ability to direct people to answer things in a way that you hope they will, but you try to make a conversation or make the best of it. I'm not saying we're perfect either. The point I'm making is you go back and then you say, I wish I would have done this or that. The onus is on you. You can't blame everybody else. And you can't also excuse it away because somebody has a huge career.
just say I fucked up. I'm a doofus. I fucked up. Didn't know anything about him.
I didn't study. I didn't read anything. I didn't look at anything. I did nothing.
That's it.
And and it's one of those rare artists where You just did it playing all those songs. You, off the top of your head, Robin, know 40 or 50 of his songs, like without even thinking.
It doesn't matter. She was potted down the entire fucking interview. Why are you asking Robin anything?
I was going to say that. Why is John Hine asking Robin a goddamn thing? Because nothing in that interview, by the way, sounded more annoyed when she piped up.
You mean it sounded annoying?
Yeah, like Howard sounded annoyed when she piped up. Like nothing was clear about, I would have rather listened to Robin interview him because at least she knows him and his music rather than Howard faking it.
Well, that's it. And then listen, guys, he wants to, in addition to everything else we've talked about that he's fake about and him being a fake rock DJ, there's nothing worse than someone trying to talk about shit they have no clue about.
Exactly.
You hear it before you hear it. Like in your heart, you go, so you're full of shit, basically. Like you didn't read the book. You didn't watch the movie. And it's anytime he had a guest in that was promoting something and he clearly didn't do his homework, it was obvious instantly that because all of a sudden every single question he ever asked, which is lazy interviewing anyway, 101, is thrown out there, and it shouldn't be. It should very simply be, okay, this is what I got to read through the questions. And not only that, I got to maybe do a little homework and look it up and say, I read your interview with Esquire and I thought it was great. Your Rolling Stone interview, whatever. I want to ask you a little more about this. Simple, really simple, but you do got to do the work.
You do have to do the work. I think it's, Howard probably had the understanding or the admiration from how most people like Simon and Garfunkel. My parents had the record. They used to play it a lot when we were cleaning. So I knew all of their greatest hits. I loved them. I thought they were awesome, but that's the extent of my knowledge. If I wanted to go deeper into his life specifically, I would hone in on that. And I think Robin actually did have a better understanding of his musicality and catalog. So for him to say, I wish he would have went into poetry and musical theory. No, you don't, because you don't care. Because if you did, you would have asked him.
One of the questions, I don't know if it's in part one, but I have it clipped for the second part. He said, look, I know you were a music, I knew you were an English lit grad. And he goes, that had nothing to do with it.
But that's the other thing. So then when he says that, then you know that talking about poetry is immediately eliminated because that didn't matter to him.
Right.
So if you want to, when you talk about draws on inspiration, it's not going to be from that.
No, it won't be. And so, just ask him what bands he likes, whatever. What is he like? What is he listening to now? That's just common shit. And it's also the most derivative, the most like perfunctory kind of questions you can ask a person. But of that stature, you just ask them all kinds of things. People they toured with back in the days, backstage stories, funny stories, anything, anecdotes.
Twice about it.
I wrote a song about it. It's called 50 Ways to Interview Paul Simon. Let me sing a little.
Paul Simon.
Anyway, Mike, you know what? It's a conversation, honestly. And I always feel afterwards like, well, I didn't get to this, I didn't get to that. But whatever we get to, it'd just be an honor to sit there and hear him. And
that's not what anybody cares about, though. Like, it's not an honor.
Yeah.
Do you think your audience cares about the honor?
No, and he's all about it's about connections too. Because one thing, and he talks about it in part two, he's good friends with Lorne Michaels, and Howard desperately wants to get in with Lorne Michaels.
But it's all the heads of everything until they're reduced to nothing, either whether it be through Me Too movement or whatever, then he doesn't care about you anymore.
Speaking of which, do you think the Jan Wenner snafu recently, the controversy with him and that interview he gave, do you think that will torpedo Howard's chances of getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a broadcaster?
I don't know how that's going to go. If he even wants that, I mean, he might feign that he doesn't, but he likes honoring of any kind. It doesn't matter.
He loves being honored. Don't even fool yourself. And if he does, that speech will be like a fucking. We'll be taking that apart like an autopsy.
Remember how fucking butthurt he was, Filmer, when Wendy Williams first got inducted into the
Radio
radio?
Hall of Fame, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had to debase the Radio Hall of Fame, and that why wouldn't he want to be in that, all that stuff. But then once he got in, it's not like he did what the Sex Pistols did. The Sex Pistols in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they sent a letter saying "fuck you, we're not coming. It's a bullshit thing." That's the most rock and roll thing you could have done, and he, rather than say "fuck them," he still accepted it.
I just was rewatching a clip of Wendy Williams during when she was a radio broadcaster, and a listener was like, I don't know if my husband's gay. He went down on another man. And she goes, denial is a river in Egypt. Your husband is gay.
Yeah, she's something else.
Referring to is, how do you make the guest comfortable? Like, you can't take necessarily your high energy self into an interview with a person who needs to be coaxed into it. And like, how do you gauge that?
How does
I'm taking oxycodone.
Needs to be coaxed into it. And like, how do you gauge that?
I'm taking oxycodone before the interview so that I'm really
so you can get
very relaxed, mellowed out. Okay. All right, Mike. Thanks. Yeah.
He wasn't mellowed enough to refrain from interrupting him many times.
But I have a question. How is he a mellow person? Or how is he a hyper person that has so many things to ask, that can't control himself, explaining himself in this way, but he starts every show with, I'm exhausted. I'm tired.
It's funny how that works out. The next one is called Lisa, Troll Caller ?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Howard, use that woke title and use it as a compliment. Dude, you were woke talking about strippers and hookers and blowjobs in the 90s, and you're woke now. All it is you're topical, you're amazing, and fuck them.
Fuck it, baby. That's it. Hey, you sound hot. Oops, better not say that.
Oops, woke. Better not ask her weight or anything, and then do the news now.
That's the broad that does the Jennifer Ritz voice. I can tell it right away.
I was just going to say that. That's the Jennifer Vitz voice.
Yeah. It should, the last part, that when she called the second part really tipped me off. Now, what this is of course, this is in relation to the Howard's woke hunt, that series we did. He had to address this a little bit, I believe, but there's going to be more in the next day or the following week, because this is the Wednesday of that week, and then he's going to have to bring it all up because he's now finally addressing the Trump tweet, not tweet, but whatever Trump's Truth Social post, whatever that Trump did, and all the stuff that we discussed. But he has to. He's now embarrassed that he used the term wrong, and he knows it, and he's going to have to go dig himself out of that stupidity hole.
Listen.
Yeah.
This gaslighting from some recycled caller that they have calling for multiple reasons to dig him out of a hole, which is so obvious because I remember hearing this voice in my headphones.
Right.
This is such BS. It is, oh, you were woke when you did the strippers. No, that's the point, you dipshit. The point is that wasn't woke. That was actually misogynistic and shitty. But fine, we could live through that if you own up to it. If you own up and say that was the period of time that we were living in where nobody cared and that was acceptable. But I guess I pushed a culture on women that wasn't great. I'm sorry. Fine.
Never apologize. Woke. Never apologize.
Yeah, fuck them. Keep it up.
All right, baby. All right, thank you.
Next one is this is funny. He talks about I think like what's it called, epidurals, basically. Like it's called Wig Math with 80-year-old Tom Morello. When you hear the clip, you'll understand why he's retarded.
I know my mom describes feeling nothing as I popped out. She was unconscious. They knocked her out, and there I was.
You're not unconscious when you get popped out. What he's stupidly not understanding is the epidural kills it's a pain deadener for the spine, right? It goes into the spine, doesn't it?
Yeah, when I had my epidural,
But it's for natural childbirth. When you do a C-section, you're out, but not when you do natural childbirth.
Yeah, they asked me at some point when I was like in a lot of pain, like, do I want an epidural? But they said it will last for this long. You're this dilated. So do you want it? And I said, yes. I fell asleep within 5 minutes and I fell asleep through my entire labor.
Really?
And then they woke me up to push. So they said, hi, Samantha, you're 10 centimeters. So I fell asleep through my entire labor.
But I wonder if Mary Morello actually was, back in those days, they used to knock you out when you had a baby. I hope she felt Tom coming out of her.
No, they used to do the old epidural. So you were awake.
80 years ago, you did an epidural? Really?
Tom Morello is just now 60. So wiggy math, he's 80.
The only thing that I thought was strange is like I remember watching I Love Lucy episodes when like little Ricky was born and the dad couldn't come into the room.
That used to be the way.
They'd be smoking cigarettes in the waiting room and then they would make up the wife to look presentable to the husband to present the baby.
Yeah, I don't even know if they still have that window that they used to show in movies of the little newborns in the bassinets so that all the prospective parents can view them. I think the hospitals I've seen, they bring them out specifically knowing like individually there'll be a what do you call it? Not an intern, but a nurse holding the baby in her arms to just and open the curtain and show the parents, and then they take them back to the incubator it is. Do they still have the display? Like you can actually you can see all of them in their little things, like all the babies that are born that day?
If you want them there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
If you say no and you want to sleep with them and get rest, or if you don't, you can have them in the room with you, or you can say no, I want rest.
Wow, get it away from me.
I'm tired.
Wasn't 9 months with this little fucking bastard enough?
No more.
Really?
He's not 80.
No, but she probably gave birth to him when he was like, he's in his 50s. So she was probably.
She gave birth to him when he was a baby coming out of the womb. What do you mean? How old was he?
80? If he's 60, why would it be 80?
Right.
She was probably 30 when she gave birth to him.
Takes 20 years.
That's what I'm saying. She got the epidural. My mother got the epidural.
Really?
The hospital was probably 56 years old when he went in. And the doctor, the obstetrician who delivered the baby must have been like 72. So figuring that, what's with these fucking? He just fucked up and he's trying to cover it up with all these numbers.
On top of it, like he said, oh, it's like 80. She's like 80. So do you think because maybe she was 20 when she had her, that Tom somehow has 80-year-old medical practices? Like, what are you talking about?
So if anybody remembers the next clip, the subject of the next clip, Grace Potter, who was she released a couple albums in 2015 and I believe one a few years ago. I don't remember their names offhand, but she was singing backup for the Stones on a tour, I believe. And someone brings, I think it was Marianne from Brooklyn, brings her up, and he has no fucking idea who she's talking about. Now, this is a person, I mean, you guys hear the clip for yourselves. And I didn't know either. I had to look it up because I didn't hear the clip.
I didn't know either.
Yeah. So, but he, the master interviewer, just spent time talking about Paul Simon and all the stuff you can talk about. Doesn't actually remember a guest.
I don't know that Gail is. Oprah swears she's not on Ozempic, but it's kind of weird that the two of them just got skinny together. You know what I mean?
Together at the same time. Yeah.
Right.
And I agree, it's that Ozempic skinny long joints. Oh, you should see Randy from American Idol, Howard. He's like 60 pounds, soaking wet.
I know.
And then
60
Grace
pounds.
Potter, I never knew who she was, only from your show, and her special was on Howard 101. It was fantastic.
Grace Potter.
Right.
Who's that? Grace Potter?
Somebody who was on she's a musician,
Howard
right?
100. Yes,
Yeah.
She picked all her favorite songs. She picked great ones.
Right.
And then I
know.
I was in.
No,
I know. No, you don't.
You have no idea.
Yeah, that's like you meeting him at a party and talking about, I don't know, let's say the Rolling Stones fucking Between the Buttons album, and he goes, oh yeah, that album, yeah, it's great. And not like that's the sound you get. So anyway, the next one is called ZipRecruiter. Thank you, James T, by the way, for these clips. ZipRecruiter steak sauce.
Robin, I should tell you that ZipRecruiter, that's my place, man. You know what I say, ZipRecruiter. That's where you go for jobs. ZipRecruiter estimates A1. I mean AI.
AI, A1. I was like,
hey,
what is he
I
talking
call it, A1 is the steak sauce. ZipRecruiter says if you want to work for A1 steak sauce, they'll try and hook you up. And, hey, you say AI. I say A1.
You fucked up a live read. This ain't Johnny Carson doing Mrs. Paul's fish fillet, fucking up a blooper. This is Howard fucking up one of his like few live reads.
That's what I'm saying, though, that this wouldn't matter if you showed me this clip back in the 90s when he was the shit.
Yeah.
Who cares? He's
Right.
reading whatever. He said AI, A1. Who
A1.
cares? The difference now is that you don't even have Squatty Potty.
No.
You have to read correctly.
Yep.
ZipRecruiter estimates AI will create over 100 million new jobs around the world.
Yeah, not A1.
A1 will not create any. A1 will create some jobs, but how many jobs are in steak sauce? This includes jobs like product designer.
Okay, so there, guys, we are done with that particular day. Now, the next one is from the 25th. So the following weekend, Monday, Wig has absolutely positively no idea why he's in the news.
Telling you about my weekend. It gets weirder from there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard about this. It was so fucking bizarre to me. All of a sudden, friends started to write me on Saturday, I guess it was. Again, my days might be wrong. Maybe it was Sunday.
Friends start to write him.
Yeah, I don't know which day it was, but friends. And I also don't know what friends they were.
I don't believe that because he has Google Alerts. He knows exactly what's happening. No friend of his is going to give him the bad news or good news that any press has talked about him. Do you think anybody gives a shit when they turn on Twitter, turn on Google, whatever, and see Howard Stern in the news? They're going to be like, hey, man, just wanted to let you know.
I got your back. I wanted to be the black cloud of reality coming crashing in on you.
Yeah, because that's comfortable, and Howard loves that bullshit.
Yeah, it says here you were caught fucking around with your stylist. I just wanted you to know, heads up, love you.
Hey, I heard that stylist of yours was kicked out of a club for possibly serving ecstasy to people.
Dealing Molly.
I heard your stylist was open palmed with a bunch of salt-looking drugs, licking with strangers licking them off his palm. Do you care to comment?
Yeah. Any thoughts? Your thoughts? Yeah. So here we go.
Friends started to write me, hey, whatever happened to people having opinions in this country, and I support you, fuck the haters, blah, 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 I support you. And I was like, something weird must be going on.
Yeah.
Something's.
It was on how many friggin' videos did we play in those episodes? 4?
Let's just listen to this. I heard from my friends that fuck people, you have opinions. You've had opinions your whole life. Would anybody ever start an email off to him or a text message about opinions? No.
Well, this is supposed to do two things. First of all, one, it's meant to sort of trivialize the whole media storm, which was a frenzy. It was also on every single social media app as what do you call it? Reels on Facebook, but it was on TikTok. It was on Instagram. It was making the rounds because he sounded like a complete retard, and rightfully so. People were calling him out on it. Greg Gutfeld, and we played, all these
Jimmy Dore.
Jimmy Dore. Also, what's the fella that wrote the
Tucker
Johnny
Carlson.
the Walrus?
Oh, Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh, yeah, okay. So we played those. You guys have seen them or heard them at least. And ultimately, you do that to act as if it doesn't touch you. Like it's not even something that was on my radar. I don't give a fuck. That's how few fucks I give to about this stuff. And it also implies that you actually have people or in your circle that inform you of these things as if you're some kind of great benefactor.
Right. It implies that you have people in your life that care enough about you to be so perplexed by why anybody would be saying any of this. And it also gives the notion that you don't care enough to go on the internet and see that you're being talked about in negative terms at will in multiple publications that you didn't pay for, by the way.
That's right. And also 79, maybe use your pea brain to do this in the future. When you don't care about it, you don't bring it up on the fucking air immediately following that weekend.
Yeah, and when you also want to be known as this rabble-rouser, rock star shock jock who is so proud of his legacy that doesn't apologize for anything and has said in multiple interviews that you refuse to apologize for anything, maybe don't call yourself woke.
Yeah. Fucking idiot.
Strange is going on. Yeah. I was like, what? And then I heard from like another friend who wrote me an email and said, hey, man, I hope you're okay. I love you. And
don't you love when he does improv? It's so wooden. It's so clearly bullshit. No one's emailing him. And you don't mention the friends. Like the other thing is, if they are friends, why not say who they are? Why not
from the
mention
FBI? My law enforcement friend.
From SWAT. Fuck. Yeah, my friend Donald Rumsfeld messaged me, and he told me that this is coming down. My friend, fucking.
My friend that I openly brag, I talk to nobody but Beth and lock myself inside of the house and hate everyone. Okay.
My illegitimate child, Sam Bankman-Fried. Fuck, he looks like if Eugene Levy's Earl Cannonbear fucking character from SCTV News had a child with Howard, it would look like that kid. I just got it in the news. He got busted for fraud. He got convicted. So like for $10 billion worth of fraud. So I didn't read the article. It just came up while we're doing this, but I'm thinking to myself, you think?
Yeah, I was following this, and Joe Rogan, it was so funny. He had Elon Musk on the podcast, and they said the court person who draws the pictures must be in love with the guy because they made him look like fucking Clark Kent and Superman. And he had like this chiseled jaw, and they did a side by side of the court drawing in his fucking face, and it couldn't be any more unlike him. He said the guy in the court who draws the court pictures must have been in love with him or something.
Talk about a jury that had earplugs, like earbuds on, listening to the game, doing anything they had to, like knowing, like, do we even need to be here?
I know it's ridiculous. The biggest thing about that was you went on podcasts, you fool, after the fact.
The game is to be sold and not told, homie.
Why? It's like going on QF. You just ripped off billions of dollars. First of all, and Elon Musk said this in the Joe Rogan podcast. He said, oh, the guy wanted to get in business with me or have me do some business. And the first thing I thought was his office and his location is stationed in the Bahamas. Shady, immediately shady.
The Canary Islands.
Well, I mean, nobody has legit business if you're stationed in the Bahamas.
Listen, why don't we have lunch in Switzerland?
He looks like he just rolled out of bed.
Fuck. Yeah, listen, there's this great Starbucks in the Canary Islands I'd like to meet you at. Fuck.
Here's my girlfriend and I. We live in like some orgy house in the Bahamas, and we're playing Fortnite all day.
Back in the 70s, Led Zeppelin, the reason why they were always on tour was to avoid the fucking the huge tax, they were tax exiles from England. They had to otherwise forfeit something like 90% of the money they made, because so they had to live on the island of Jersey, the Isle of Man. They would live in Switzerland. They would go on tour. So they decided, well, fuck, we may as well be on tour. So they were evading taxes for so long, and of course, it made them nuts, especially the drummer, who was like, they said he was constantly homesick. He had a family. This is like Robert Plant had a family as well, and they were just like small town guys that hit it big, and one of them knew how to handle it sort of, and the other one didn't. But and so he turned to alcohol and drugs and stuff like that, but not drugs, but alcohol, absolutely, and just was a complete shithead, John Bonham. But that idea that you've got to be you're located in these shady fucking tax wash locations.
I exactly, that's what Elon Musk said. And listen, I am no fan of paying Uncle Sam, especially the way they work our tax dollars. I'm the first one to say fuck that, and I don't like it either. But don't pretend that you're running some multi-billion-dollar empire out of the Bahamas and it's legit.
I really want you to go after Donald Trump. But then again, I don't want you to go after Donald Trump because that's what he wants. And I went, what the fuck is going on? So I was talking to my daughter, Emily, and I said, people are writing me all this weird stuff. In fact, I even called a friend and I go, something going on.
So you mentioned Emily. Why mention Emily and not your friends?
Well,
who doesn't want to be mentioned?
Interesting.
If it's just something as simple as, hey, check this out.
Does he need the name Emily, though? So this is what I'm thinking.
I think it was
because
Emily.
He rarely mentions his daughters, Fillmore.
Yeah, so friends, his group of friends was Emily.
No, but he needs the validation of, here's somebody who is my child who I rarely mention. So you're going to be fixated on the fact that I spoke to my rabbi, the most religious zealot daughter, about the morality of what's being talked about in my name. And I'm going to mention that child
specifically.
So it's going to give me cover, because if Emily says everything's fine, then my audience will say, well, that rabbi priest daughter of his, then it must be fine.
Yeah, she's a holy woman.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And my friend goes, no, I'm just telling you, I support. Like, he didn't want to be the one to break it to me that Donald Trump had tweeted about me or X'd me, or Truth Socialed me, whatever he did. He made late, like Saturday night, like 3 a.m. Trump was writing that I'm a broken weirdo. And that I'm not loyal to him, which is bizarre. I mean, I don't work for you. Why would I be loyal to you? I mean, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Well, first of all, you're not loyal to even the people you worked for. You sued them constantly.
Look in the mirror. You both have the same reflection.
Pretty much.
But anyway, he wrote about me that I'm a broken weirdo and I'm ugly and all this kind of stuff, and that I'm irrelevant or whatever it is. And so I was like, gee, what stirred this up? And then I put all the pieces together. So a couple of days ago, I went on the air and said that I'm woke. Now, I tell you the truth. I don't know what woke means, but
we know.
We know.
To me, I said on the air, and by the way, when I said this on the air, I never, ever thought anyone would care that I'm saying this.
No, you count on it. You believe that your voice carries weight. You can't do the doe in the woods thing, first of all. And if you crave the spotlight, you crave PR, whether it's good or bad, really. And I think even like shows like ours, I believe on some level we should probably just quit the show and stop doing it just to stop feeding his fucking ego. But the truth is, he'd find something else. He would find everything else he could to make himself feel important, feel relevant.
I agree with you, but I also think he said it because he thinks it's playing to a base that he needs, because he lost the base that is the polar opposite that he used to carry.
Not even
so
necessarily.
Like if he says necessarily
the opposite. Well, hold on. Sorry, one sec. If it's not even necessarily the opposite, it's the average blue collar listener, which he lost a long time ago. he never gave a shit about to begin with, except for what they could do to his bottom line. If he could make money off them, hence the whole swag discussion that he had. I wish I'd done Jimmy Buffett's thing, whatever, all that shit. However, it's really about getting those. Like next week, he's going to have Barbara Streisand in, supposedly. When he's not in, they're going to pre-record the fucking shit, and I can't imagine that because it'll be two of the biggest assholes on the planet talking to each other, and two Jewish ladies, and the idea that if he doesn't say these certain things, he's not going to get these guests is a little like to me. It's counterintuitive to what he used to do, which was we want people who want to be on this show do the show. We'd love to get these other people if they're brave enough to come in and whatever and be grilled by me, ask about how big their dick is, what money they make, who they're fighting with, who are their ex-lovers, what it was like working with these people. The questions that we used to love.
Well, it was because of his immorality and so many other aspects of the show, which never really bothered me that much.
Mm-hmm.
It made it so he could have whoever on, no matter where they came from, what they stood for, what their politics were. That never mattered.
Right.
Now, I know we're in a heightened climate of political polarity, which is annoying. I get it. But you don't have to, and this goes for anybody on interview shows, you don't have to cater to a demographic. I hate that. Just say what you mean what you say, be who you are, and shut the fuck up otherwise. I mean, just do what you're going to do regardless as a person. If you don't believe in something, if you don't think some certain way, you don't have to say that. Like, stop catering to demographics.
Well, yeah, and it's fear-based. That's
of course.
Because in the old days, it used to be that if he didn't have a guest, it'd be fine because they would have lots to talk about amongst the staff. They'd find a way to make the show entertaining, getting callers. Callers made up a huge chunk of the show, right?
And they came from everywhere.
Real callers across the country, people from out west who were just decided I'm staying up, I want to call in. That's what I have to do. I have to be up at 3 a.m., whatever the fuck it is. So that was fine. And he was claimed then to be fine with it. We covered that in the Beth's Secret Stash thing. Mm-hmm. But in the reality was, no, he got to a point where like, I don't want to actually have to do work. I don't want to coordinate stuff. I also don't want to pay my employees, which is why people are leaving. Like, why you let go of the Howard TV staff? Well, it was costing you money and not making enough. But you should have kept them because all those people created content. They also fed your ego. So it was worth it just to pay them for that alone.
But here's the part where I think why he couldn't keep and he had to stop also taking real callers is because now we're into this zeitgeist of if you have somebody on your show call in and say something offensive, not in line with the elites of whatever fucking bullshit nonsense that's going on right now, that is not of the correct think thing, like some dystopian nonsense, you will be responsible for their talk.
Yeah.
And it never used to be that way. And so I can understand why that's like annoying. But if I were him and I were the supposed quote unquote woke person, wouldn't it be more woke to have people on that you might get a left curveball in and either debate it, defend it, disengage,
discuss,
whatever, discuss. Yeah. I think that's the better approach, which is what I think people like Joe Rogan, Adam Carolla, Jimmy Dore do.
Well, it's like when Geraldo, do you remember the infamous Geraldo episode where he had neo-Nazis on and a chair was thrown and it hit him in the face and he got bloody on camera? Now, unfortunately, that was at a time when it was like not Jerry Springer, but Morton Downey Jr. Morton Downey Jr. I think that's his name. Yeah. He decided, excuse me, it was that era where, if a fight broke out on stage, that's great. Like it was all about visual, especially. And that was whatever you could do for ratings. It was fine. But I like the idea that Geraldo would have all these people on to actually discuss their views, not for the sake of something rowdy going on, but the idea that, well, you put them at the table, have them not break bread, but say, look, let's fucking go at this. Oprah used to do the same thing when they used to have hip hop stars on talking about the record labels, the stickers, the warning stickers, and they'd have religious people on, they'd have parent activists, parent advocates, the advocacy groups, they'd have artists come in and defend themselves. It was great. It was dialogue and it was free.
And I think that's what's really missing. And I really always thought that my young brain listening to Howard Stern thought that was always his sentiment and platform. So for him to turn into this, I don't know, like, what did you call him? A school marm?
Yeah. 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 If anybody wants to see what real interaction is like, check out the Dick Cavett episode with Norman Mailer and Gore Vidal going after each other. And I can't remember the old missus that was on it, but it's riveting shit. Like, and it's so antagonistic and it's real. There was no making that up. But they were able to, for the most part, just kind of go one for one and zingers and stuff. And it's great. And that's stuff that you'll never get on the Stern Show because he can't chance something like that actively happening in studio. Like, imagine someone that actually gave him some real pushback. Now, I'm not talking Robert Plant type. I got to get out of here. This sucks. The interview sucks. But someone saying, who writes this shit for you? Like, what the fuck kind of an info department do you have? And then walk out and say, I'm not sitting here for this nonsense. Mick Jagger, if he had to sit through some of that Paul Simon stuff, would have been gone in 10 minutes, not 40.
Yeah, lucky for 10.
How the dumbest shit that I talk about becomes somehow news. It's weird. But anyway, I said, well, I guess I'm woke because, like, I'm not mad at Bud Light for giving a transgender girl a can of Bud Light. I don't see the problem with that. They want to reach out to everyone. They want everyone drinking their beer.
Okay. The problem with it is it's beer. You're aware. You're not a complete mentally ill person where you think that Bud Light, which is mainly sold in sports stadiums and drunk by people who funnel beer at colleges, at sports games, at football games in America, is going to go for this. I mean, stop it. This is just common sense.
At the same time, if it was a beverage I enjoyed, which I don't actually anymore, I used to drink Bud just for a cheap. If I wanted a cheap drink, that was a good option, a cheap beer. Something's changed in the formula. I don't like it. But I wouldn't give a fuck if I don't know, whoever, if Caitlyn Jenner decided they wanted to go after Caitlyn Jenner and get him or her, to advertise Bud Light, I think it was Bud Light, wasn't it?
It's Bud Light.
Yeah, I went for regular Bud. So anyway, they didn't want to give it to Bud. So I wouldn't give a fuck personally, but I'm a little more forward thinking than the average person who enjoys sports and stuff. And as on principle, a lot of people would just say, I hate this fucking agenda, whatever the reason is. I don't like it. And as a stan, I'm boycotting this particular beverage. I don't like to mix this and that.
If you look at commercials back then, it wasn't an agenda. It was just, it's about the beer.
Right. You're trying to the advertisement should reflect the customer. Like they should see themselves in the ad, like enjoying after our hard days, work on the ranch and like, let's pop open a Bud, and to me, I hated those. Still, even those commercials were obviously idyllic and well shot and stuff, but they were meant to be rural, like very, rough, like working blue collar essentially.
And by the way, I don't like it as a woman that you're trying to backdoor this in with seeming like this has something to do with women either, because it doesn't. It has to do about fun. It has to do about partying. It has to do about sports. There's something about a beer culture that has nothing to do with this agenda. So why are you pushing this?
The other thing is I'm just talking about numbers alone. I mean, if the number of trans people let's say, in the world was so substantial enough that it made fiscal sense to spend money on an advertising campaign, to including them in some stupid campaign to get their business buying whatever drink you're selling, whatever product you're selling, I suppose I could get it. But the numbers are so small. Why would you even bother trying? And because your numbers should typically be all right, just, it's one of those companies that I don't even know why they have to advertise, to be honest with you. Like Coca-Cola, do they really need advertising in 2023?
Everybody needs advertising and marketing so you don't forget them. It's kind of like anything with PR. I understand that. Everybody has a marketing budget, but the thing that I'm more like confused about is why would you think that your audience cares a flying fuck about this?
Yes.
I mean, do you know your audience? Do you know your consumer?
But not even that.
And if you don't know your consumer, then what the hell are you doing?
Like, my whole point is I don't even know that the money you spend, the money you make from the trans community would offset the cost of advertising to appeal to them.
But that's the other part too, is you don't even know enough to know the trans community most likely doesn't like Bud Light either. I don't see many trans people going to football games. Like, seriously,
who knows? I mean, like, whatever they're drinking, I don't. The average person drinks all kinds of things. I don't know. Everybody's got their fucking faves.
Let me put it this way. I've known many drag queens in my lifetime, especially back in the day when I used to go to gay bars every week. I never saw a single person drinking a Bud Light.
They were drinking cocktails, something colorful.
They're drinking Cosmos. There's drinking tequila. They're drinking mixed drinks. There's not Bud Light involved in any of this. So to me, this whole thing is so awfully done.
Yeah, and it's a little cynical as well. It's like all of a sudden we're gonna appeal to another demographic suddenly because we will it and because we make this advertising thing. That's not really how it works.
It's not how it works. And then Howard to be using this as some cudgel to explain that. Okay. Yeah. I don't even understand because I care so much about trans people, as if we haven't seen
exactly how he treats trans.
Yes, thank you.
Having High Pitch Mike win a TV by having Siobhan sit on his face.
Exactly.
Oh,
and cut and throw a sausage at Tula.
Yeah. Oh, fucking hell.
Okay.
Doesn't impact me. Yeah. I don't feel like transgender is being shoved down my throat at all.
No, Ralph is being shoved down your throat, but I digress.
Honestly, I don't see any transgender people anywhere where I am.
He does. But I have. You know how many times he brings up trans? And not only that, lately, we'll get into it, trans porn is showing up in his suggested porn feed. And the only reason to have trans stuff show up on your fucking algorithm, like for whatever your porn you're searching for, is because you've actively been looking for it. That's the only reason. They don't just throw in, like, if you're into bondage, all of a sudden you're not going to get, I don't know, midget porn. His algorithms recently are going like they're giving him trans stuff, he claims. And it's like, oh, I don't know why this is. I'm not into trans. I'm like, dude, you spent a lifetime. You watched trans porn with KC and Ralph. You talked about that film Gia, you called it. And I have the clip. We'll go through it one day, maybe on a Beth's Secret Stash or something. And you claim you're this advocate. And then, we know now already, Android has the like Android, probably Apple too. They have the thing picking up certain keywords.
It's not just the phones themselves, Fillmore. It's the algorithms based in the websites themselves.
Yep.
So they have
tracking
this
cookies.
Ability for you. What you look up on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter, on everything that you care about and that you look at multiple times, they pick up on that. And so that comes reverbed in your feed all the time. So it's for him to say this is it's like some sort of, I don't know, boop, this happened. I don't know why. That's now in 2023, you can't say that. Everybody knows how algorithms work.
Right. So isn't he admitting he watches trans porns for pleasure?
All the time. That's what it's admitting, though.
Yeah. But he's too much of a 79 to realize that's what he's doing, or does he want people to know that?
He thinks, though, that this is somehow fooling people. Like, I have no idea why this is happening or that is happening. I'm a married guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So is Rock Hudson.
Yeah, so is Tony So is Tony Perkins.
But to say, I guess I'm woke, because proudly I will say I love the vaccine. I was the first one online Friday for it at CVS. I got it. I feel grateful to this country for providing vaccine to me. I feel protected. I love gay rights. I support people getting a like Social Security.
Your Honor, may I bring up Exhibit A, the homo room clip?
Can I please bring up anytime he badgered people? You're gay.
Right,
You
that's
look
gay.
That's gay. You sound like a fag.
Yeah,
Remember?
oh, yeah. Why does that suddenly get swept under the rug?
He's so for gay rights, Fillmore.
Oh, big time.
Security. I like people getting Medicaid. I don't know what woke.
I like people getting medicated. What are you, Britney Spears' father?
Yes, the opposite of woke to me is asleep, and I think I'm awake. I like to read mainstream media. I believe that Trump lost the election.
Oh, God.
Okay. I like to read mainstream media as a counterculture icon. That is the stupidest thing you could ever say.
Mm-hmm.
You were the person people would tune into after every public sort of event that would happen, whether it be the OJ verdict, whether it be 9/11, whether it be the war in Iraq, whether it be anything. And we would listen to you, whether it be bad Academy Awards, shitty Grammys. We would turn into you because you were counterculture. And you're sitting here right now and saying to us that I believe in mainstream media. Then who the fuck are you?
I didn't see any evidence that Trump won the election. I know 60 court cases were brought, but nothing. So I assume, and I even think Fauci is a great person, not a good person, a great person. Why? Medical doctor who devoted his life to trying to prevent viruses and pandemics coming into this country. So I guess I'm woke. So, hey, I like it. I care about the climate. I care about the future of our country.
Fuck's sake.
Do you see care about the climate every time he starts up his personal helicopter?
No kidding. It's just like, I think I mentioned it about Leo DiCaprio's fucking retarded, white, green commercials. Meanwhile, he's on a private jet fucking some 20-year-old. It's brutal. Just complete hypocrites.
I'm woke, so I said this.
I guess you were fine.
Oh, and you're so green, by the way. You care about the environment. How big is your Palm Beach mansion, Howard?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I just think that he's full of shit. It's so crazy to me how many celebrities who say these things like I care about the climate and vaccines or whatever. It's you don't give a fuck. Stop.
You know who cared about, or I don't know if he's still alive, but do you know who really fucking put his money where his mouth was? Ed Begley Jr. I think he lives somewhere in New Mexico. His house is completely self-sustainable, solar power. It's unbelievable the way he did like how Architectural Digest used to sometimes have celebs featured the way Gary did at Sound and Vision magazine. We got to do that clip one day. And he went through like, this is what we have: solar heating. We have this for, wind turbines and all this stuff. And not that I want to have that or that I care that much about it, but I thought, here's a guy who for years has been an activist and is actually living the way he says he's living.
Do you know who just is doing that? They have a whole reality show about it. Is Pamela Anderson. She bought her grandmother's house in Canada, and BC, it's right on West. BC. Yeah. And it's an entire waterfront property that she's turning into a self-sustained property, gardens, food, and she's building a flower shop on the property from the gardens, selling food, vegetables from the gardens. They're huge. Mm-hmm. And she's really doing this thing, and she's doing the work on the reality show. It's her 2 sons, and like a few people, like architects and contractors and whatnot. And she's doing the work, and she wants a self-sustained property.
So she's sussy.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, sussy with bigger cans. Well, that's good for her. Fuck it. I never had any animosity towards Sam. Towards Pam. She always seemed like, for some reason, I think Raven and I discussed this a little bit. She always seemed like inherently a nice person with really bad judgment.
I think the best thing she ever did was, and I love this, it was her appearance on The View when she stuck it to those bitches about Julian Assange. And I was like, good for you. Good for you, man. And I was like, look at the balls on Pamela Anderson. I was so impressed.
I never found her sexy because it's not my type. The kind of blonde bimbo thing. It just seemed a little too cookie cutterish and cartoonish, because I just like brunettes and redheads more. But and also there was that time in Playboy where her and Jenny McCarthy, and who's that other one that claimed she was the most downloaded woman on the internet?
Carmen Electra?
No, it was she's Cindy Margolis, they all had the same exact look, and I'm thinking, do you guys just like follow a recipe for this shit? Like, is there some kind of,
I really actually liked Pamela Anderson more so when she was first on the scene and younger, and not so not bigger boobs, not bigger hair, not so made up.
Yeah.
And I thought that look was better. So I think she was naturally more pretty. I think that following the fame made her not attractive.
I think so too. I mean,
personally.
I mean, everybody, it's going to float your boat. I'm not saying she wasn't fit or this or that. I'm just saying.
I mean, she was always beautiful. There's no denying she was always beautiful. But for me personally, I like more of the older stuff. And I actually think she's really attractive now, being this sort of no makeup, self-sustaining person. I like that.
It's a look, and it's getting her some publicity as well. So good on her.
Hell, you said that you thought he lost the election.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, when I said I was woke, it unleashed a barrage of right-wing media debating this. I guess it was a slow news day on Friday. So let me see. I think I have maybe I have.
That's wild.
Can I?
I know. Who the fuck am I?
Well, the reason why right-wing pundits are the ones who are kind of leeching onto this is because I think a lot of listeners who now are some sort of like media personality in that ecosystem, they listen to Howard Stern. So there are people who have heard this evolution, like a Greg Gutfeld, of course, has listened to Howard Stern. Jimmy Dore, of course, listened to Howard Stern. So these people who thought he was this free speech martyr, who was this rabble rouser, who is this, counterculture person.
Mind you, Jimmy Dore, he doesn't count as right wing, I would say.
Oh, he's not a right-wing pundit at all. Yeah. He's a left-wing one. But I'm saying right-wing. So like a Matt Walsh who listened to him, and a Ben Shapiro. These people who have listened to Howard Stern, they're like, what the hell is this? They are people who maintained who they were throughout their life. Howard's the one that changed. So the people who are picking up on this are the people who were listeners, a lot of them,
but who still they are who they've been. And and when you do this thing, like, okay, this is a little too obvious, but Caitlyn Jenner being Bruce Jenner, now becoming Caitlyn Jenner, that's a physical transformation, and it's painfully obvious.
But not an ideological one.
No, I don't believe so. I mean, I don't know. I don't follow Bruce, and I didn't ever.
I do. She's the same person that she was.
I never ate the Wheaties. Could she still do the hurdles? Anyway, I don't like, so that's a little too obvious, but we're talking about is people that like Ariana Huffington, used to be Ariana Huffington Stassinopoulos. She got divorced, I believe, and kept the Huffington. I don't know why. she was originally a right winger and then became a left winger. She switched parties at some point. That's something that would get a little bit of publicity because she's a political pundit and absolutely would get some press at that moment in time. Howard getting press at that moment is also, keep in mind, guys, if you're right wing or left wing, you do have to find things to discuss to keep yourself relevant, to keep your social media account active as well. There's always a little bit of that when this goes on as well.
But don't you think that Howard had this great synergy of left wing and right wing because he stood for those principles of free speech? I know, but when we weren't well informed.
Yeah.
His show kind of cross paths of that.
It existed in its own. It existed in its own universe, and then there would be the different things transversing into it, and all of a sudden,
there's things that each things won't agree with, but there's a lot of things that each side would agree with. So they always converged, and I thought that was the best part about the show too. By the way, is the fact that nobody cared about that because we all, right, left, center, listened to it.
Yeah. The next one is called Robin Went to Maryland and Wig Went to Nobu.
You didn't go anywhere, did you?
I just went down to Maryland.
What? To Maryland? What were you doing down there? What are you up to?
And you could hear just in the background more of that PVC rubbing again.
What is that for real?
I have no idea because at this point, so wherever he was recording from, wherever she was recording from, he wouldn't. So we know he wouldn't pot her mic down when there's no guests. It could be something from Robin's where she is. She's maybe on a couch or something. I was going to say
there has to be some microphone.
There's
somewhere
something's bleeding into somebody's mic, and it might be Robin's. So who knows, guys? Anyway, thank you, James, for pointing those out. That is an odd sound.
It is, and I'm like, where is this? It sounds like where somebody's butt is. So I'm confused. Like, do they have speakers or audio that is just somewhere where they don't think it is? I don't know.
Well, yeah, the whole thing is when you get these mics, I mean, the tighter the pattern, the less ambient noise you're going to hear. Like I'm using a laptop, and I don't know if you guys are hearing the cooling fan. Hopefully you're not. It wasn't that loud the whole time, but for a short, like 5 minutes, it started to get a little louder. But ultimately, that's what you get this tech for. There's no reason for a show that prided itself on so many listeners and having so much money and him being so rich to have any type of fuck up like that.
Yeah, it shouldn't be sounding like some drunk kid on a leather couch.
Right. Doing Indian rubber burns. Jesus.
Friends? You mean what? COVID infected friends or RSV infected friends? Yeah, you're all right.
And that was on Friday. I went.
Yeah.
And
you felt the need to see people. You like to be social, is that it?
He's making her sound like a fucking leper, and this whole like, oh, you went somewhere. Oh my God. Oh, you went against my edict to keep yourself in your fucking castle at all costs.
A few people I like to see.
All right, how'd it go? All right.
Fine. It was great.
Yeah. I realized
the ferry over to Rehoboth, where the president lives.
Really?
And yeah. And then met some friends for lunch.
Your Zoom wasn't working? You couldn't see them over the computer? You need to see that they're real or something?
Yes, I want to see a real human being every once in a while.
Why wouldn't you? Poor fucking thing. And we will address the People magazine article that Robin was featured in over a weekend in the next part of this, guys. So just trust me, we'll get to it.
But doesn't this also follow, like that article, also the podcast we did where we talked about her going on the wrap-up show with Gary and how she's sounding more human, I guess you could say, more relatable in a lot of ways that we haven't heard for a while. And I think when she's saying this, that, I want to socialize, I want to see another human, this is bringing us to another the same points of like Robin is definitely trying to do something right now. I
Yes.
don't know what it is, but she's definitely trying to get that point of view out.
I think she's on her way out, and they're expecting it to happen sometime in the near future. Hence, do you remember the Pearl Jam concert they did for Sirius, and then
Yes.
they arranged for Eddie Vedder to mention her from on stage,
Yes.
and Gary looking very emotional at that time, and Gary, you know, he's a human being, of course, he's entitled to feel, however, but I don't believe he'd start crying if there wasn't some kind of ominous feeling like she ain't long for this world.
I agree with you. And I think her speaking on, because I've heard this now a few times, not only in the wrap-up show, not only in the People magazine article, but right now. Yes, I want a human connection. People who want to feel and who have this understanding. And I hope more people get that sort of foresight before bad things happen to them.
Yeah.
About how important it is to establish that connection, not only within yourself, but with people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who don't see that, they will see it right before something bad's happening.
Yes, and on her way out, she does not want to live like she's going to be more along the lines of, I want to do what I want to do now. I don't even have much time left, and I don't have the time to entertain your childish bullshit anymore, boss. And
yes,
on top
doesn't
of
it make you angry, Fillmore? Doesn't it make you angry?
What?
He's holding her back.
Well, yeah, but not only like just, and not even on the basis of she's not allowed to talk about stuff on the air, like her personal life. And she had to go on this bullshit filler show in the summer, relegated to that. That's already galling in my mind. If I'm Robin, I'm pissed off about that. I'm doubly pissed off that on examples of for example, the Paul Simon interview, my mic is potted down suddenly.
Yes, we talked about this in the show that I felt, you're restraining somebody who actually has knowledge about his career, unlike you. Let her talk.
Yes.
And then you're also preventing her and making her feel bad because of your narcissism, your neurotic behavior, your shit behavior. And it's annoying to me that I feel this. Robin wants to say something, and I actually do want to hear it. So it's really hard to hear this.
It is, and to close this off, guys, what will happen is, like, she understood. What did happen is she understood as of 2004, probably earlier than that. When Beth came in, I think Robin, there was some kind of cutoff. And she sensed it, and she waited until 2004 when she mentioned that on they did that thing where they read the text of what someone said and then they played the audio. Who is it? Yes. And she said, "We're not friends anymore." She meant that, absolutely. But what she really didn't understand was, she lost the connection. They were never really friends because she doesn't understand he can't have friends. And what it was she's no longer going to be in the know. She's not going to be confided in. She's feeling depowered. Or not demasculated, but she's feeling like someone has nerfed her, and so she's now like this passive passenger on a show that's now all about more and more about Howard. And so hence you start hearing all these, what's Beth going to do when I'm dead? She's going to have a party. Are they a physical match?
But don't you think these recent inklings is this, and how I'm feeling when I've listened to this live too, this is her passive aggressive or somewhat aggressive way of trying to reclaim what she's lost because she knows she doesn't have a lot of time.
Yeah, she wants on the way out and I'm not talking about parlaying this into a show of her own because no one's going to give a fucking cancer patient a show. She might start doing her own podcast. On the other hand, she might just start doing I don't know if she has the actual work ethic to put work in once a week to do her own show. I think she's a lazy piece of shit, just like him. But she definitely wants press junkets. She wants appearances. She wants whatever forum she can to have a platform and become Robin Quivers in capital letters again.
But I think she's doing that too because she knows he will not platform her.
Yep.
Unless she's doing these things on the side that are going to draw attention to her.
Mm-hmm. He's cutting little pieces of her stage up into kindling and leaving her nowhere to stand.
Now, here's the irony of it. I don't know how you feel about this, in the beginning, when she was doing this like health journey before she had cancer and was trying to cut in all her charity shit and green drink and dieting and books and whatever, it felt, of course, shoehorned in and annoying.
Yes.
But then she had the cancer. And of course, the big lie of it all comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
But once it came out, now that she's been over time marginalized, like taking away the news and everything else,
mm-hmm.
I want to hear what she has to say, actually.
Me too. Not because I love Robin, but because at least it's closer grounded in some type of reality as opposed to his fantasy world.
Yes.
It's more interesting. Like that bummer school, the summer school program we got that audio from, where she didn't know she forgot about the Mick Jagger thing. Okay, so if she has chemo brain, because she's going back through it, and she clearly is. I was talking about this with C.A. Thompson. No one decides to stay bald unless they've lost their hair. Like if they're like me and they just didn't have a shot at having a full head of hair anyway, and it goes away. Or if you're doing recurring chemo treatments that result in baldness, so you just keep going with the wig. Maybe she had a little bit of hair and that fell out, whatever, but you're doing recurring chemo and radiation treatments. So it doesn't make sense to want to grow your hair anymore. You just stick with the wigs. It's a lot easier. It's not as, you'd rather have your own hair, but that means she's been still dealing with it since she got diagnosed and since she had the surgery.
Yeah.
Imagine you're working next to a guy who claims to get the hair warts.
That's fantastic. I have somebody at work with who, same thing. They're reoccurring chemo and and it's the eyebrows too.
Yep.
So I could tell that something's happening.
Yep.
And I want to actually hear it because I think she's been more honest than, and it's not like her honesty. I think it's just like a longing for honesty on the show. And the only thing I've gotten so far in the last few years has been this that we've recently heard from Robin.
Right. And any fights that Beth and Howard have on the air that are clearly like Beth trying to assert a little more dominance.
Yes. It's just as sad that like this is what it's turned into, where we're just like longing for somebody probably dying of cancer and some broken bearded marriage to save our interest.
Well, I was going to ask you, they have another until 2025, I imagine, the current contract, right? So if Robin, we don't think we've been saying for a while, we don't think she's long for the world, but she's defied us. If she doesn't survive to the next contract, which is most likely, do you think they get rid of Fred?
No.
Or do you think he decides? Do you think he decides to hang it up?
He won't hang it up. I think he will use that as a catalyst for sympathy and a victim narrative, and carry on in her honor.
If Howard has to make less money, though, I have a feeling he's going to axe both of them, even if even if she survives. I think he's going to go straight ahead and go into a pure interview show.
Oh, about Fred. That's a good question. Do I think Fred will get marginalized or fired if Robin dies? I thought no, because you need some sort of roots to tie you back to the thing that made you famous in the first place, and nostalgic goodwill. But I don't think he cares about any of that, actually. So if he's trying to just make moves that's going to make him what he thinks in his stupid brain is more famous, he's probably going to go with, more like an E-News, juicy scoops type bullshit.
If you went through the most incredible metamorphosis and somehow transformed yourself into the best person you're capable of being, and you and Lisa G, after that metamorphosis took place, were on the top floor of a burning building, and it's just you two, and God told Lisa I will give you the ability to fly if you kiss John the Stutterer, she would say no.
I know. Well,